maximum points. Okay, now before we get started on today's event, I would like to take some time to explain who Skill Series is and for you to meet me and my team. So, I'd like to ask you a question. Are there any topics about life that you have no idea what it is and it isn't taught in school? Maybe there are skills you want to have, but you don't know how to get it? Don't worry. We at Skill Series understand you completely. Skill Series is one of the inactive chapters at Ontario Tech University, and we are a team of young adults who have a vision of bringing forward topics in relation to life skills that we don't get the chance to learn in school. We do this by utilizing resources and reaching out to knowledgeable community members to host topics like this one to help the workers of tomorrow with skill learning opportunities and challenging topics before setting foot into the real world. The real world can be quite a scary place, and it is even harder if we are trying to get there on our own. So that's why Skill Series is here to help you out. To start the presentation, I want to leave you with a quote by Robert Frost. Bills travel through the mail twice as fast as the speed of checks. This quote is telling us that surely we have a source of income. However, we have to deal with the expenses, and those will come to bite you if you are not cautious with how much and how you spend your money. In order to avoid having unpayable expenses, you need to be cautious with your money, and that spending little sums of money equates to a lot, which is why you need good money management. Okay, on to the 5 W's and H. This is pretty standard, but I will be going through each of the topics presented on the screen with you right now. So, who can finance? Who should you reach out to when it comes to questions about finance as a business owner? Who is responsible for money management? Then I'll touch upon what is finance, what should you look out for, tips to keep in mind, and what are the do's and don'ts with financing. Asking why is also an important consideration. Why should we pay attention to financing? Why do we need financial literacy? Why are you listening to me, right? I will also be covering when and why you should start financing as well. Lastly here, I will go over the why and how. These are all very good questions to ask because everyone should be curious about an important topic like financing. Whether you own your own business or not, we all need to be cautious with our spendings, especially with inflation and how expensive everything is nowadays, not to mention debt and other expenses that bite us here and there that are unavoidable or unpredictable. Okay, now let's start off with what? Financing is defined by a process of providing funds towards business activities, managing purchases, or investments. It is also the process of raising funds for capital for expenses. The act of financing could mean investing, borrowing, lending, budgeting, saving, and forecasting the amount of money you need or to have. There are 3 main types of finance: personal, corporate, and public government. As defined by Corporate Financial Institute, personal finance is the process of planning and managing personal financing activities like income generation, spending, saving, investing, and protection. The process of managing one's personal finances can be summarized in a budget or financial plan. Financing is a way to leverage the TVM, which is the time value of money, to put future expected money flows to use for projects that started today. Then, corporate finance defines the capital structure of a corporation. This includes funding and actions of the business management in order to increase the value of the company. Corporate finance utilizes analysis tools as well as distributing financial resources accordingly. Lastly, public finances is the management of a country's revenue, expenditures, and debt load through various government and quasi-government institutions. This form of financing can provide an overview of how the public finances are managed. A country's financial position can be evaluated through these means. Now, on the right here, you can see debt versus equity. These are 2 very important terms. Debt financing means that the loan must be paid back, and this is commonly paired with interest. Interest is a payment for the person who is borrowing money to the lender on top of the amount to repay. Interest is normally given at a rate, and this is done to benefit the lender, but also to ensure that the money is going to be repaid. So there are some benefits and some disadvantages to go over. Benefits of debt financing includes that the lender or the lending company has no control over how you run your company and it has no ownership. This is going to be very important when I go over the equity. Now, once you pay back the loan, your relationship with the lender ends. This is especially important as your business becomes more valuable. The third point is that the interest you pay on debt financing is tax deductible as a business expense. And lastly, the monthly payment, as well as the breakdown of payments, is known as expense that can be accurately included in your forecasting models. Now, the disadvantages, however, this adds debt payment to your monthly expenses, and this can be difficult, especially if you are a small or early stage business. Now, on to equity financing. It is a loan that is not paid back, which sounds fantastic, but instead you voluntarily give up ownership stake to stakeholders. This gives a benefit as there is no obligation to repay the money acquired through it. Also, there is no additional financial burden on the company, through the downside is quite large. So some benefits of equity financing includes not having to pay back the money. So lenders are part-time owners in your company instead. And because of that, their money is going to be lost along with your company if you were to go bankrupt. Number two is you do not have to make monthly payments. So there is often more cash on hand for operating expenses. And number three, investors understand that it takes time to build a business. You will get the money you need without the pressure of having to have your product or business thriving within a short amount of time. Now, for the disadvantages, your loaners are like business partners now. You will also have to consult with your investors before making any decision because your company is no longer solely yours. So, now onto the who question of financing. Let's ask the question, who can help you? There are a lot of financial aid platforms you can refer to, and taking the current pandemic as an example, the Canadian government has relief grant programs for business owners to help support them during difficult times. There are also third party sources like Workday, which is a management organization that supports the accounting and finance functionality that global business require. It is a great digital platform that helps you stay organized on your finances and your money flow. When it comes to startup financing for your business, it is important to consider all the sources of financing, which is presented to you on this slide. So on the right, you're going to see that the slide presents 7 sources: personal investing, patient capital, venture capital, angels, business accelerators, government grants and subsidies, and bank loans. So as a small business owner, you're always going to be an investor. Well, the first investor should be yourself. This is money that you have that you're taking out of your own pocket in order to jumpstart your business. In a sense, this is a loss, but every company starts off with this hurdle before they can take off. This proves to investors and bankers that you are willing to take the risk for your company and that you are invested in making this company work. The next source is patient capital. This is money that is loaned by those around you. This includes a spouse, parents, family, or friends. They are considered patient capital, and this is where the money you will repay as your business grows. When you rely on patient capital, it is important to remember that your close contacts do not have much capital themselves. They also may want to have equity in your business, and it is important to maintain good connection with these individuals, meaning that you will pay back the money. Next is venture capital. Venture capital is a form of private equity financing that is provided by venture capital firms to funds to startups, early stage and emerging companies that have been deemed to have high growth potential or have already demonstrated high growth. Venture capital takes equity in a company to help business to go through with a high risk project or business owner wants to go through with but does not have the funds for. In order for this to occur, ownership or equity of the business will be given to the external party. Now, I mentioned the term capital a lot by now, but I haven't really explained the term. So, capital is the money a company has that is available to pay for their day to day operations and to fund their future growth. Next, we have angels. Angels are wealthy individuals or retired company executives who decide to invest directly into small businesses that are owned by others. These people are often highly credible and have a good resume of experience and have a large network of contacts. Angels tend to finance the early stages of businesses. And the main difference between angels and venture capitalists is that angels finance their early stages of business with investments with about 25 to 100K versus venture capitalists who would prefer larger investments of 1 mil. Of course, this comes at a cost. In exchange for their money being basically gambled, angels reserve the right to supervise the financial management practices of the company that they have invested in. Next, we have business incubators. Business incubators focus on providing support to new businesses that are developing. This includes revitalization and sharing services. Business incubators will partner with other businesses and share their administrative or technical resources. For example, an incubator can share their laboratory for new businesses to conduct their testings for a cheaper rate before that business has to take off with their findings. Now, the second last source is government grants and subsidies. Government agencies provide financial support such as grants and subsidies to help businesses. However, it is tough. The criteria is stringent and there is competition. It is important to note that banking institutions are looking to collaborate with companies that have a good record and excellent credit score. Now, let's go over the why questions related to financing. Why should we seek financial aid? Well, companies seek for business finance with the intention to promote and benefit their company. Perhaps you need money to help your business take off, or you're trying to work on a project but you simply do not have enough funds to do so. Financial aids can help you out with that. Number two, why do we need to budget? Well, if you don't budget, then you won't be able to keep track of your spendings, especially if you need to spend a lot for your business. Money is important, and money can slip away fast if you are not aware of having money management. Okay, now number three, this is probably the best question out of all. Why do I need financial literacy? Well, it is for the benefit of yourself, your business, and your employees. It gives you reassurance to know that you are able to know where your money is going. Financial literacy can help you succeed in any area of business and elevate your decision making, negotiation, and leadership skills. Financial literacy is the understanding of financial terminology, statements, and concepts, and knowing how to use the information to make a financial impact. There are a few ways financial literacy can help you out, and it is as follows. Number one, it can help you understand the impacts of your actions and decisions you make with your money. Number two, it teaches you to make more informed decisions. Have you ever heard of that telling or that phrase that you need to consider if you're buying items or services, if it's a want or a need? Well, that kind of mentality applies here as well. Number three, it teaches you to be smart with your money. And number four, it also teaches you to be more financially efficient because if you are made aware of your spendings and how much you have available to spend, you often may be more aware of how much you are spending your money so you choose better or cheaper alternatives in the future. Now, let's go in depth on why you need to budget. There are 6 reasons I listed here on the slide that could really help answer this question. Number one, to stay true to your goals. Number two, stay on top of your spendings. Number three, success. Number four, emergency presentation. Five, cut off poor habits. And six is satisfaction. So these are pretty spot on, but they're also very self explanatory reasons for learning to budget. To stay true to your goals, this could come at a cost and could take time. This is why you need to budget to set aside money for certain expenses and to cut down on spendings elsewhere. This ties on to the point of number two as well, staying on top of your spendings. It would be quite a job to the heart if there was a project or product that you really wanted to buy and would be a great addition to your business, but you simply do not have the funds for it at the moment. Now, remember this question, why seek financial aid? Well, I now will be sharing you a few points as to why this is important. So the first reason is working capital. And working capital allows your company to take advantage of opportunities, invest in new product services, and expand your business. According to Float app, a working capital is an important aspect to your financial health and of any business. Not having enough working capital can impact the future of your business, and many businesses choose to apply for external funding to create enough working capital to enable them to fulfill their growth ambitions. Some may choose to ask for a loan to cover short-term funding requirements by giving the business the money it needs to grow. The chart you see on the slide shows data collected from a survey done by British Businesses Bank, where business owners were asked and surveyed what was their reason for seeking finance. You can see that the majority has said working capital and to purchase fixed assets, because these are the two factors that are very important for any business. Next reason is to grow your assets. Growing your business and increasing sales often requires you to purchase assets such as new machinery and vehicles. These purchases can be costly, but will be beneficial for your company in the long run. While you may have enough cash to cover working capital expenses for a company, you may want to look for a loan to cover the purchase of new assets to enable your business to expand. The third reason here is that it is a good idea for small businesses. Small businesses or businesses that are planning to start need funding to have that initial takeoff. If you're looking to grow your business during the beginning stages, you may need funding that helps you to execute your business plans. Whether you want to increase sales, expand your range of products or services, move to different premises, hire more staff, or expand internationally, you can take a loan for growth for finance to help. The next reason is growth of business. Everything comes at a cost, and taking your business to the next level requires funding to change your visions into reality. So, the last question is why? Why do you need financial literacy? Well, you need to learn to make informed decisions with how you spend your money, how to budget for your business and team, and how to be efficient with your money. These were tips I have spoken to you before, but now I want to share you a site called BDC. BDC stands for Business Development Bank of Canada, which is a financial institution for Canadian entrepreneurs. This site offers a number of different services along with courses that can help you become the businessman or woman you want to be. Their page offers entrepreneur training with a full catalog of different courses you can take to learn about financing and starting a business at zero cost. This platform provides a lot of great resources and support to help your business, so I highly recommend you to check it out. The last two questions to cover is the where and how. You need to know where to look when you are thinking of learning on financing your business. There are a number of online platforms that you can refer to when looking to finance, as well as government funded organizations. It is important to know how to finance because it is beneficial to all companies, and it is a service that is made available to you in order to benefit your needs and goals. Of course, you need to be smart with your choices and decisions, but it can be an act of reassurance for you as well. Okay, now we have made it through the end of the 5 W's and H. Now let's talk about money and how to put action into what I just mentioned to you. So, this is a quote I really like because it resonates with me, and I think it could be true for a lot of us as well. You cannot escape the responsibility by evading it today. If you keep pushing a task or goal and procrastinating on getting it done, it will only hurt you more. Abraham Lincoln's quote here is especially relevant when it comes to dealing with debt, especially for business owners. So, Lincoln's words suggest that rather than denying your debt and putting it off dealing with it until later, you should roll up your sleeves and get to work and managing it right now. Or, when it comes to saving money, start a savings or retirement plan today rather than waiting until it's too late. The future you will thank you for making this decision now. Okay, to keep your monthly business's finances up to date, there are a few tips you should keep in mind to help ease your process and time in doing this. Keeping track of finances may be a finicky task to do consistently, but trust me, it's worth it. So, number one is to use automated softwares for administration. Yes, there are actually so many softwares out there that can help you immediately capture your financial spendings for the month. However, you should still be the main person who is controlling your own finances because it is something you should be aware of, rather than relying on computations. The benefit of financing and budgeting for yourself is that you will be aware of how much you're spending and how expensive purchases are. You become more aware of your spendings and it allows you to make changes for future spendings as well. You should aim to block off about 15 minutes every day for budgeting and to keep track of everything you spend. This would be very important for you if you are on a tight budget or if you have a number of expenses and bills to worry about. Number two is to set expense thresholds. When it comes to expenses, you should set this threshold to be lower than expected so that you can be prepared for unexpected spikes. This can help you prepare for the worst case scenarios. An expense is like an outflow of money taken to make payment for an item or service. Let's say you plan to set aside $500 for expenses. This amount should be treated as a minimum amount rather than your maximum, because there are inflation rates and increased costs for goods and services now, and you may not be able to avoid these costs because it may be an unavoidable expense, such like bank charges, rent, repairs, maintenance, and utility bills. Number three is to store extra cash for emergencies. Emergencies occur, and it is important to set aside money for unexpected changes to occur. You should allocate around 3 to 6 months of funds and invest in them in bank deposits so that they can be helpful in unexpected emergency situations for your business. Of course, this is not something you need to store away immediately. You can put aside some money at the end of each month and accumulate to this amount that you can store away for these emergencies if they do occur. Number four is to keep a constant track of your finances. You need to take the time in the moment to stay on top of tracking your finances. Make sure you have an app or notebook or a checkbook where you are recording your purchases as they happen. In a few slides, I will share a few sources that exactly do this, both digital and paper and pen. It is simple, and as long as you know how to organize or plan your spendings, it would be very beneficial. Number five is to develop cash flow forecasts. Cash flow is like the lifeline of your business, but it is very problematic. There are peaks of highs and lows when it comes to cash flow, and it can be influenced by your business, which is like product releases, or external, which is like time of the year, or even take the pandemic as an example. Companies should develop cash flow forecasts based on historical performance and current conditions and make sure that you can adhere to shift or downfalls. Number six is to stay organized and consistent. Organization is key, and when it comes to expenses under control. At the end of each month, you should make a report to identify where your money went and where you should plan better for the next month. You can also keep track of the money in and money out this way. Number seven is to not be shy to ask for support. You can ask for support from peers, family members, friends, and your workers for advice if you are unsure of the decisions you are about to make. Financing can be hard because you may not be familiar with all the different expenses you come across, nor can you predict emergencies from occurring. Number eight is opening a business banking account. I actually gave a presentation on this back in November, but opening a business banking account is a great idea for the benefit of your company. Opening a business banking account and being strict with putting all the related expenses on that card is the easiest way to make sure that you're constantly updating your records to reflect your current business spending and earnings. Number nine is trust. You need to find trust in your decisions and you need to be confident in what you plan to do. It's your money and you should be smart with it. Money does not come easily, and I'm sure all of us would love to have money for ourselves and for leisure spendings. That's why you should not take financing just as another task that you are forced to do. It's not a waste of time. Number 10 is to reduce expenses through outsourcing. If you're a small business, you do not need to rush the growth of your business and hiring or making all these purchases right off the bat. Instead, you can try to outsource or hire freelance agencies for this task. This can help you reduce expenses and allow you to hire people who are already knowledgeable in the task before committing to spending lots of money. Number 11 is to maximize financial aid programs. You should rely or look into automated softwares. They are made available to you, and especially if you have a lot of purchases and expenses to be made throughout the month, using softwares like QuickBooks can be very helpful in helping you manage your money. There are a lot of purchases and expenses to be aware of during these early stages of a business, so it can be beneficial to have softwares to provide you support so that you are not overwhelmed. Number 12 is to conjoin banking accounts. Linking your banking accounts, like your credit card and your business bank account, can be a smart move to make. When you do this, the accounting system part of your bank account helps you provide updates on expenses and provide you the idea of how much money you are going to be spending and how much you spent. Number 13 is to store sources of income and expenses. It can be a good idea to list all your income streams and expenses so that you can always have an idea of how much money you should prepare in order to pay your expenses. Having this list makes budgeting a lot easier because you have an understanding of how much money is left in the bank, even if you were to make no income at the end of the month, because you allocated money for all unavoidable expenses at the end of the month. Number 14 is to hire someone to monitor or reject expenses. If you are not sure of what you are doing or if you are not confident in the decisions you make, hire an accountant or someone who is knowledgeable in this to help you. Everyone makes flaws in their money management, but we would only know that it was a flaw if we made that mistake. Don't be afraid of making mistakes because it can help you to learn from them. If money allocations do not go according to plan this month, you can reflect and change for the next. Well, that was a lot of information, right? Well, yeah, I agree. But those are all very good tips that you should make note of because you are not alone and it can be hard to get into the habit if you have never financed or done budgeting before. So, this slide should be treated like a timeline. I'm going to walk you through how to navigate a simple budget tracker you can actually try right now. There are 4 different components that I want you to become familiar with first. First stage is brainstorm. So in this stage, here you're going to ask yourself, what is your sources of income? What are your unavoidable expenses? What are your sinking funds? What are your anticipated spendings? And how much you plan to set aside for these expenses? Next is start. Start using this tracker. Put your brainstorms into action. Now that you have an idea of your sources of income and expenses, you can lay them out so that throughout the month, when you make these payments, you won't be surprised or short of money because you already planned for this to occur. The third step is to put in the work. You need to remember to store your budget planner in a safe place, but also in a place of accessibility so that when you can access it easily and make changes to add information to it. It may seem finicky, but it is worth to have it and do. The last step is to store and file. Every month, you have a completed document of your spendings throughout the month. Store this properly so that you can reflect and plan for the next month. But also, at the end of the year, you can see how much you have spent and what you can do to either maintain for the next year or to change so that you can save money for your company. So now that I told you about the different options for budgeting, what will you choose? Well, both software or personalized are great options. It really depends on your personal preference at this point. On the right is an example of a monthly budget tracker I have prepared for you. On the top right hand corner, we have cash in, which would be the amount of money you have available from the end of the previous month. This is the base amount of money you have in your account to spend. Under that is the paycheck date. This is the date where more income will be deposited. Underneath there are a number of boxes. Each chart falls under a specific category, but before I go in depth on each chart, let me explain the budget and actual. Budget is how much you plan to put into the specific expense or saving, and actual is to be filled at the end of the month to know how much was actually put in to these different accounts. You will compare the budget versus actual at the end of the month so you know how to adjust accordingly for the next. Costs are never permanent, so it is better to prepare more. Like the famous saying, it is better to be safe than sorry. So the first chart on the left is going to be your sources of income. Some people may have multiple sources of income. For example, you can have a part-time job while babysitting your neighbor's children on the weekends. The budget and actual columns may not be super important here, but it is a good idea to have still to fill out because if you had to call off for the day or work, essentially you would be losing money. The chart directly under is titled Sinking Funds. Sinking funds are infrequent and planned expenses for costs that will eventually need to be made. This includes car maintenance, insurance, home repairs, vacation, etc. For business, this could be building maintenance, equipment repair, etc. All the money put here is essentially put to the side and used when the time comes. Next is debt payment and bills. Like stated in the title, here you can write down all the bills that you have that you need to pay by the end of the month. Now, moving on to the top right of the chart, we have expenses. These are simple but necessary expenses that need to be made. These include things like groceries, supplies, equipment, etc. Directly under that, we have savings. Funding put here are to be saved for large purchases. That could be savings for a project you wish to carry out at some point of your business when you have enough money, or it could be upgrades that you want to make to your business. The budget is what you anticipate to put in. And the actual is how much you were able to save up and actually deposit into the savings. Savings kind of get the short end of the stick because it would be money that you have after all the necessary expenses have been paid. The last chart would be summary. This wraps up all the amounts that you had so that you can get an idea of how much money you spent during the month in comparison to how much you anticipate to spend. You can reflect on these amounts to make changes to your spending habits. Don't forget, budgeting is a learning process, and it is okay to see numbers that don't appeal to you because there's always room for improvement and change. Hopefully, you are all well equipped with knowledge by now, and we have made it to the last portion of the presentation, which is the final recap. The main message I want you to take from my presentation today is that budgeting and financing is an important system that you should get in the habit of doing because it will be beneficial for you and your company in the long run. Like getting your business off the ground, that initial takeoff is one of the largest hurdles you can come across. Same with financing. If you dedicate a bit of time, like right now, to learn about financing and starting the process, you will not regret it later on. Financing is not something to push off if you are in need, and budgeting is something you should not disregard. You don't need to be afraid of asking for help if your company needs financial aid, and that is why there are so many different resources out there for you to get familiar with. Every every decision you make in business has a financial consequence. This quote holds a lot of truth because anything you want to do for your business comes at a cost. And if you don't have the funds to do so, then you would have to postpone your project, right? Coming to the end of my presentation today, I want to give you a few useful resources you can refer to if you'd like to learn more about financing, as well as providing the names of government-funded organizations to provide financial aid. And that is my presentation for today. Thank you for staying with me until the end, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to my email, which is on the slide. If you would like to, you can come check out our previous workshops that are posted on our YouTube channel, and you can look at that whenever you like. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.